The soy complex led gains in the grain markets today, which helped corn prices close slightly higher. Wheat futures closed well below session highs, with winter wheat pivoting on the $7 level. Lean hogs were lower, but live cattle futures closed higher for a seventh consecutive session.
Live from the peak of Hump Day via Farm Journal Studios, this is AgriTalk. This afternoon, it's a conversation with Randy Martinson from Martinson Ag Consulting. Directly following the news, Todd Bubba Horwitz from BubbaTrading.com. I'm handsome newsman Davis Michelson. Now, here's the host of AgriTalk, Chip Flory.
All right, Davis. Hey, thank you so much. Remember your old high school, DNH?
I do remember DNH, yes.
Closed today because of flooding.
I heard about that. New Hartford is underwater. Yeah.
Underwater, yeah.
This is no good unless you're a student. In which case, wow, bonus, you know?
Yeah,
Didn't
bonus.
even have to snow.
I'll bet a bunch of those kids turned out to help fill sandbags.
I would reckon so, yeah.
They might rather be sitting in class now.
Well, there may have
before
been
the
coaches.
Sandbags, it was a great idea. After sandbags,
yeah. It's opinions change when there are shovels involved, don't they?
They really do. They really do. Appleton Parkersburg also closed because of flooding.
Okay.
There's flooding up on the upper Iowa River around Decorah. Some heavy rains, man. It's gotten to the point that the soil profile appears to be full.
Yeah.
Because every rain we get now is running off. Yep. The quote-unquote dry run behind the house is far from dry. It is running full. Mm-hmm. And, it's just incredible the way that conditions have changed up here in the last 45 days, Davis.
Yeah.
It really is. And with all of that said, my yard and out into the timber is an absolute jungle.
Uh-huh.
After last night's winds.
You got that babbling navigable water in the back there.
Now I do.
That'll keep you company.
Shh.
EPA will shut it down. Let's bring in the Corps. Check this guy out.
Welcome to AgriTalk. I am your host, Chip Flory. That is Davis Michelson. Glad that you are with us. We've got Randy Martinson from Martinson Ag Consulting coming up here in just a little bit. Todd Horwitz coming up with some perspective on what's going on in the markets. You ready? Should we get
I'm
it?
Ready. Let's do it. July soft red winter wheat futures spiked resistance at $7 and rallied sharply before giving all the gains back to close lower on the day. This appears to be a technical rejection of trade above $7 in front month SRW. That makes it a tough level of resistance for the near term. Dry conditions in Russia, western Kazakhstan, and eastern Ukraine fueled the overnight rally in wheat futures. The results of a one-day tour by the Illinois Wheat Association revealed record yield potential in the state, chased some of the buying interest out of wheat futures today. July HRW wheat futures 2 cents lower, $6.99.5. July SRW wheat down 4.5 cents to $6.93. July spring wheat closed at $7.36 down 2.25 cents, Chip.
I want to talk to Randy about this, but I'm afraid that the wheat market is going to get tired about this talk about dry conditions in Russia very, very quickly, unless some demand shows up for U.S. wheat and Russia's drought turns into demand for U.S. wheat. If that happens, boy, look out. Look out.
Ethanol production in the weekend of May 17 averaged 1.019 million barrels per day. That's up 19,000 barrels from the previous week, also 3.7% above the same week last year. Ethanol stocks dropped 277,000 barrels in the week to 24.212 million. Corn futures were helped by spillover support from gains in bean prices, but there is growing concern about the safrinha corn crop in Paraná, Mato Grosso do Sul, Brazil. July corn opened slightly higher and near session lows and ended the day near session highs. Front month corn is still trading inside of Monday's trading range. July corn futures today were 3.25 cents higher, 4.61 1/4. September corn up 1.75 cents to 4.70 1/4. December corn futures closed at 4.84. That's up 1.75 cents, Chip.
Yeah, maybe a developing story on the safrinha corn crop. Pay attention there.
Well, late session gains in soybean meal helped bean futures post a high range close, although front month beans spent another day inside of Monday's trading range. Bean oil prices traded higher early in the session, also helping support gains in bean futures. Planting delays for the second half of the U.S. bean crop has limited selling pressure as traders attempt to sort out potential impacts on yield. July beans were a dime higher at $12.46 1/4. August beans up 9 1/4 cents to $12.43 1/4. November beans closed at $12.18 1/4, up 5 1/4 cents today.
Meal was under pressure early in the day. July came back and closed $5.90 higher. That was a big part of the reason why beans finished firm today as well.
I've got July cotton 300 points higher on the day, 79.38.
Volatility all over the place in that cotton trade.
On your livestocks, heavyweight choice graded boxed beef prices were 93 cents lower this morning on good movement, and that was good enough to help live cattle futures rally again today. June cattle gapped higher, slipped back to fill the gap, and then rallied to close near session highs well above the opening range. June fat cattle were $1.20 higher, 184.17 1/2. August feeder futures $3, 7 1/2 cents higher at 262.90. And on the snout side, June lean hog futures opened on session highs and slumped to the lowest close since February 13. June hogs today $1 lower, 95.40. The October contract off 52.5 to 83.50. Chip Flory.
All right, thank you very much, Davis. Let's bring in Todd Horwitz, BubbaTrading.com. How you doing, Bubba?
What's up, Chip? What's up, newsman Michelson? How are you?
What do you like there, Bubba? What do you like?
I like vacation. There's nothing to do. The markets are ridiculously slow. They're already gone for Memorial Day. The grains look good. I still think that cattle's way overpriced based on the economy and based on what's going on in the restaurants. But they keep going higher. They keep pounding me, Chip. I'm wrong.
Yeah. That is an impressive market. And the thing is, and I know that you don't look at the fundamentals all that much, but the beef market, the wholesale beef market is what's leading the cattle market higher right now. So it's an impressive move. Did you make anything from the comments from the Fed?
Well, they're not cutting rates. That's a comment. I think that you're going to see that they're going to have to hike rates. I mean, look, if he's going to turn his back on inflation, then they're not going to do anything. If they're going to try to fight the inflation, which they should not do, right? They created this problem themselves. This is a government and this is a Fed-created problem, the amount of inflation that we have. If they'd let everything be alone and let the free markets trade, we wouldn't have these issues right now.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not going to disagree with you at all on that, but I will say if they caused it or contributed to the inflation, they won't be able to help themselves, Bubba. They're going to do something.
Well, of course they are. This is the problem with the Federal Reserve, and this goes back to 1980 and Alan Greenspan, when the Fed became the bubble builders and started to do things that didn't make any sense. You know they're going to screw it up because it's not logical, okay? That's the problem with what we have. There's no logic behind what they do.
Gotcha, buddy. All right, we'll talk to you later. Thanks, Bubba.
Have a great day. Thank you, baby.
You bet. That's Todd Horwitz, BubbaTrading.com. Okay, coming up next, we're going to talk the fundamentals of the grain markets, weather, what's going to cause some demand. Randy Martinson is next here on AgriTalk.
In the morning, you're coffeeed up and you're thinking. In the afternoon, you've calmed down, but you're still thinking. We're here all day. AgriTalk.
Welcome back to AgriTalk. I'm Chip. Davis is here. Davis is always here.
Most of the time, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. It's just a comforting,
I got into the
comforting thought to know that you're always there.
Well, I got into the pork today. I felt like I needed a little brain little brain burst.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I was tragically too late. We'll discuss in the fourth.
Ooh.
There's been a mishap. Yes.
Oh, no.
There's been a mishap, and pork was involved. Yeah.
That's not good. I don't like the sounds of that at all.
Just going to leave that hang there. Everyone mentally prepare yourselves. This
okay.
This is bad.
We'll get ready for it. We'll talk about it at the end of the show.
Deep breath.
The pork chop, the pork chops that I was grilling as I made the mad dash for the basement last night.
Yeah.
Turned out perfectly.
Is that right?
Perfectly.
See, nature knows what to do. Nature knows what it's doing.
Yeah, that's right. Well, when you got the app on your phone and you can watch the whole thing going down, and you know exactly what the temperature is of the of everything. Yeah, it worked out pretty good.
The wind kept flipping them.
I had just done what was probably going to be the last flip anyway, Big Apple. So all turned out all right. Okay, let's get to this conversation with Randy Martinson, Martinson Ag Consulting. Randy, it's good to talk with you again. How are you?
I'm doing well. How's Chip?
Doing real fine, real fine. How's things up in the northern production areas?
Well, we've got kind of a tale of two states going here up in the north. The eastern part of North Dakota, the western parts of Minnesota, and then South Dakota, Iowa. As you were talking earlier, we're kind of on the wet side. The rest of the state, the 2/3 is probably sitting in good shape right now.
Okay. What about planting progress up there? Does everybody feel pretty good?
For the most part, most feel fairly good about it, except the southeast corner of the state. Their things just haven't moved very good. We've been wet and I'm not going to complain after hearing what you guys were talking about in Iowa. That's a lot worse than what we're seeing, but we're still getting rains just like that, just every 2-3 days. We're not getting the warm days to dry us out, and so it's been tough to find fields to get on and to move, and that's for the northeast corner of South Dakota, southeast corner of North Dakota, and western Minnesota. It's been kind of that way.
Yeah. I'm not saying that it's late, Randy, to keep planting corn or soybeans up there. But when I look at the forecast, it does feel like it's going to get late on that last, 10 or 15% of the acres. Is that kind of your feeling?
That's exactly it. And, for a majority of northern Minnesota and North Dakota, the last planting date for crop insurance is May 25th, which is Saturday. So, we're pushing the envelope. I think we're 51% planted, 49% left to go. And we're approaching that final plant date. So I think there will be some corn acres that will either get switched over to soybeans or they will likely be prevent plant.
Yeah. Have you run the numbers on it yet? Does it make more sense to do one over the other?
Well, it's always better to try to put a crop in if you can, just even for the soil and everything. So, right now, I would think there would be guys that are going to lean towards the prevent plant just because they just don't want to mud something in. And if we don't see a break in the rain, just waiting to put beans in isn't going to help either.
Right. Boy, that's exactly right. The options that are available on crops up in North Dakota in particular is something that always keeps me thinking deep into the planting season on some of the changes that they might make up there. Have any of the quote unquote specialty crops grabbed some acres up there this year?
Oh, dry edible beans have grabbed a lot of acres.
Oh.
A lot of producers are looking at those just because they had some really good contracts. The stocks were fairly tight in a lot of the edibles, and so the processors came out and made some pretty attractive offers, and so we're going to see a pretty big increase, I think, in the dry edible beans, especially pintos. For most of North Dakota and Minnesota, we'll see a big increase.
Okay. Now, if I'm taking this conversation too far, just say so. But is that a demand issue or is that a supply issue? The good contracts.
Well, it's a combination.
Okay.
It's a combination of the two because they've had good demand and we've actually had a little bit poorer crops the last couple of years. So we've kind of pulled down. Last year, we thought we were going to be able to build our stocks up and get them to be comfortable again. That didn't fall into play. So now it's kind of left the processors now needing to go out and bid aggressively. And with, droughts taking place in Mexico and dry conditions in other areas, the demand has been fairly decent for the edible bean. So it shows that, the demand is there, but right now we don't have the product. We don't, so they're trying to get the production there.
Yeah, and those processors don't screw around, do they, Randy? I mean, if they need acres, they just go buy them, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, they have the ability to come and buy them, and that's kind of the nice thing. I mean, I always say the edible bean market is kind of one of the last true capitalist markets because it is truly supply and demand that drives that market.
Love it. Yeah, that's very cool. What else is happening up there? The grass is back, right?
The grass is back. A lot of cows got put out a little earlier than normal this year because of the wet conditions. Feedlot's getting bad, so so we are seeing some good pasture conditions. The rains have really benefited Western North Dakota as well as helped build back into the eastern regions as well. So yeah, we are seeing some good grass production, and hopefully we can see some warmer temperatures so that it'll continue to grow now.
Yeah. Okay, so what we've talked about, or I should say everything that we've talked about so far, maybe we do have trouble getting that last 10 or 15% of the corn crop planted up there. Is it enough to have much of an impact on, A, the futures market, B, the market up in your area?
I think so. And partly because USDA came in and brought stocks down a lot more than we anticipated in their May crop production report. Yeah. So we're looking at a 2.1 billion bushel ending stocks estimate instead of 2.5. You take another million acres off, and sure, you trim it by 180. Now all of a sudden you're below that 2 billion mark, which people start paying attention when you get supplies, stocks below that 2 billion. And if we have some hiccups in a couple other places, we get a chance to see those stocks continue to dwindle. So I do think it will help the overall market. And, right now with our end users, our ethanol plants up here, they're aggressively trying to get corn brought in now. So, I mean, we've got some decent basis levels. So we kind of already are seeing a little bit of apprehensive selling by the producer.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, tell me a little bit more about what's going on with the ethanol guys. Why don't they have their needs covered?
I think a lot of farmers, they got the grain in the bin, and then when the market started going down, and they didn't need the cash right away, so there wasn't a lot of selling as we were going through, the winter. And even though we didn't have a bad winter, a lot of producers then just, with the market going down, didn't want to sell at that point. They'd rather, wait to see a little bit of recovery, which normally in the springs we do see finally a little recovery, and we have seen a nice little bounce. We've seen a little bit of grain start to leave some of the farmers, but the yards are muddy enough, and they've been busy to get a crop planted that they just have not concentrated on moving grain, and that I think has helped bring some of the end users out to be somewhat aggressive to try to get product.
Well, Randy, when we look at that crush number, the NOPA crush number from April, and it stunk. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But I mean, the story that I'm hearing more and more often now that I think people are kind of getting behind is that the crushers just didn't have the beans to crush in April. Is that what you're hearing?
I think that there's some more truth to that, and there was a lot of plants that shut down and went into their cleanup mode or their maintenance because they didn't have the beans. So I think that was really kind of the function of it. I don't know how we can go from 5 or 6 months in a row where we said, just shattered the record to then, like you said, kind of a dismal one there in April.
Well, I don't know. We're going to come up on a hard break here pretty quick, Randy, but maybe we should talk a little bit more about that bean supply situation when we come back, because dang, I mean, is it? If we really didn't see it in the quarterly grain stocks report, I wonder if we're going to see it in the June 1 numbers when we get them at the end of June, though, that bean stocks are just simply tighter out in the countryside than what we thought they might be at this time. We're in the middle of a conversation with Randy Martinson, Martinson Ag Consulting. We'll keep it going when AgriTalk returns.
Let's go to the markets page at profarmer.com and check today's closes, where July HRW wheat futures were 2 cents lower at $6.99 1/2. July SRW wheat down 4 1/2 cents at $6.93. July corn futures were 3 1/4 cents higher, $4.61 1/4. December corn futures closed at $4.84. That's up 1 3/4 cents today. July soybean futures were a dime higher, $12.46 1/4. November beans closed at $12.18 1/4. That's up 5 1/4 cents today. July cotton 300 points higher, $79.38. On your livestock, June fat cattle $1.20 higher today, $184.17 1/2. August feeders $3.07 1/2 cents higher with $262.90. And June lean hogs today $1 lower, $95.40. Get more market news every market day. Visit tryprofarmer.com.
Opinions expressed on AgriTalk do not necessarily reflect the views of Farm Journal Broadcasting, affiliate stations, or sponsors. You're listening to AgriTalk, where the conversation begins. Join us at 855-4-TALK-AG.
Welcome back to AgriTalk. We're in the middle of a conversation with Randy Martinson, Martinson Ag Consulting. I'm your host, Chip Flory. Glad that you have joined us on a Wednesday afternoon. Randy, okay, so back to what we were talking about at the end of the last segment. Is there anything in the structure of the bean market that might suggest stocks are tighter than advertised?
That's a good question. You look at I don't think there's a lot in the farmer hands, at least the farmers up here that we talk to. I mean, they don't have a lot of soybeans left, but yet our basis levels continue to be a little bit wide. So, I think that's more of a function that we just don't have the exports right now. As, most are, China's buying is still focused on going through Brazil. We're hearing rumors now this week of 2 or 3 cargoes that possibly got sold to for summer delivery to China, which hopefully is the start of what we'll see as some more demand. But right now, it's kind of a hard question to answer because it with the basis levels being wide, normally you'll see basis tighten up if you're looking at the being hard to get a hold of product. But with lower demand, we can't quite gauge that right now.
Right. The start that we've got on the new crop bean bookings is terrible. It's bad enough that we at least need to think about that China's ignoring or avoiding U.S. supplies on purpose. Is that fair to say?
I think you hit the nail on the head. You look at what the trouble that they're seeing in Brazil right now with the dramatic flooding that's taking place in the southern regions, with the 24 to 30 inches of rain. That last parcel of soybeans that are left to be harvested in the southern parts aren't going to be very good quality and aren't going to be very marketable. And yet it's still been tough to be able to get some demand or some interest in U.S. soybeans. So, I agree. I think they're definitely on purpose avoiding this.
Yeah. And this is we're getting into areas that we typically talk about in the morning show, not in the afternoon show. But there's got to be some political hard-headedness or head-butting that is going on between the Biden administration and the Chinese Communist Party and Xi. And I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. It's just that with the tariffs just announced by the Biden administration, it's almost like China has decided to retaliate without an official announcement of retaliation, correct?
I think that's exactly it. And it was disappointing not having, used cooking oil put on that tariff list, because we're importing so much of that into the U.S. right now for the renewable diesel fuel market. If we could slow that down, just think how much more bean oil we'd be using, and then increase the demand for our soybeans. But that not being in part of it, I think really shook our market a little bit as well. Well, we saw that with the bean oil dropping as hard as it did. It's made a nice recovery, but it does show us that right now that we're not really putting our guys first.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly right. Okay. Dry in Russia. There's some issues in Kazakhstan. There's some issues in Ukraine. The wheat market is wanting to pay attention to that. What's going on in the spring wheat market up in the northern plains? That any signs of demand coming in?
Basis levels have improved, so we can say that much as far as the wheat is concerned, is that, and traditionally we start to see a little bit better basis now as the winter wheat harvest starts and we start to need to have some higher protein wheat to blend with it. That hasn't been the case the last couple of years because the winter wheat crop being a little better quality than average with their protein. So, but right now we are seeing basis improve, and we haven't really seen a lot of demand or a lot of trains being shipped to the Pacific Northwest, but the rumors are starting that we could start to see a little bit of demand start to pick up.
Yeah, that PNW market is just dead right now, isn't it, Randy?
It is. I mean, it's been pretty quiet. I think we've been shipping some corn through there, but that's about it. I mean, we haven't seen the soybeans going very, there's been not many trains going soybeans or wheat.
Yeah. That's really disappointing to me. That was a market and that was a market that was really coming around, and China flips the switch and that market is really suffering right now. No question. Okay. What about on sticking with wheat? The conversations that I'm having with guys right now, they're a little frustrated over the amount of, except on days when it really supports the markets, but they're a little frustrated that maybe the market is focused so heavily on the global stocks and global balance sheet rather than paying some attention to the domestic balance sheet. And when they say that, I'll admit I kind of scratch my head a little bit, Randy, because the domestic balance sheet doesn't feel all that price positive either, does it?
Not really. I mean, and part of that is because of our exports being so low, so it shows that we've still, we're still looking at increasing stocks this next year. I think that's going to get to become a little bit less as we move forward. I was actually surprised that we, with the indication of Minnesota and South Dakota increasing spring wheat acres like they did, I think that number is going to come down because of our wet spring that we've had and a little bit slower planting progress. But it's in the regions where the acres are going to get planted. So I was a little surprised at that too. I do think that spring wheat or wheat in general is looking for something to help get it over this resistance level. And right now we just don't have it there to help push it over that level.
It still feels like wheat futures want to rally. That's the confusing part and the confusing messages that I'm picking up from wheat. It feels like it wants to rally. I'm just not sure why it needs to.
And I agree. I mean, I think they're looking at, the idea that we are going to get demand because of the trouble that's happening in Russia. They're lowering their production estimates almost on a weekly basis between, with ICAR and Solvecon.
Yeah.
They're dropping their production estimates, and they're lowering their potential exports so that it gives us hopefully a little window that we can become competitive again and export into it. But we haven't seen any residual of that come into play yet.
Right. Okay.
And it's going to take exports to get this market to move.
Oh, yeah. I agree. I agree with that for sure. Okay. Let's go over to the cattle market here for just a bit if we can. Bubba was talking about the cattle market. He's the strength that we're seeing is a bit confusing to him, or he doesn't think it reflects the consumer attitudes and the economy. That's the wild card in this market, right?
Most definitely. The economy is definitely going to be what's going to help, continue to push the cattle, or it's going to be what pulls it back down again, especially, if we, and I agree, and I agree with what Bob has said. I, felt that the Fed needed to increase interest rates because of all the inflationary signals that we were seeing that were still increasing, fuel and feed, and meat, food being part of that. So I thought they needed to come in and do that. Without them doing it, it keeps the economy, I think, limping along a little bit better than anticipated. You look at the stock market, all three, NASDAQ, S&P 500, and Dow, all hitting new highs last week. That's helping, I think, to spur the demand, but how long will it last?
Yeah. Yep. And boy, the calf market, good grief. 800-pound, 900-pound calves, yearlings are bringing $2,250 a head. Randy, can you pencil those out? Does it work?
I just can't see how you can right now. And, and I can understand why we're not seeing a lot of herd expansion, because how is the guy going to bring in a heifer next year that's likely going to be $3,000 and looking at what potentially is going to happen, in 2 years when that calf gets marketed, So, yeah, I think there's a lot of concern about expansion, and I think that's why we haven't seen a lot of it as of yet. And again, it falls back to how much will the consumer actually be willing to pay in the grocery store when you've got chicken and pork at a lot lower price.
Yeah. Okay. So on cattle marketings, live cattle marketings, do we need to get some price protection in place?
Oh, I think so. We're hitting some good values. I mean, they're definitely there. So and you don't know when that black swan is going to come into play again, too. I mean, we've seen a couple of those that surprised us. So I do think it's not a bad idea to be protecting on the fat cattle side. Feeder cattle, I think you got a little bit more time. That supply is going to be tight. The cattle and feed report should be friendly on Friday. Normally, cattle respond, opposite of what the report does.
Yeah. Yep, the cattle on feed report. Give me 30 seconds on your overall attitude on grain marketing.
Right now, I think guys need to start looking and moving wheat and corn. I think we're coming close to our seasonal, and once the crop gets planted, then we go into the growing season. We likely won't see much until we get into pollination then for corn. So I definitely think guys should be looking at getting at least a third marketed here in the short term. Beans, I want to drag out a little bit just to see if we can get demand back from China.
Randy, these conversations are always fun. I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. Thank you, my friend.
Well, thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
All right. That is Randy Martinson, Martinson Ag Consulting. All right. I don't know where we're going next. All I know is that there was some sort of a pork catastrophe that Davis has got to tell us about.
On your favorite radio station or your preferred digital device, AgriTalk is live every weekday. Welcome back to AgriTalk, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Your pal Davis Michelson here with Chip Flory as well, your beloved host.
Yeah, that was Brooks and Dunn.
Brooks and Dunn.
Yeah, if you and I were going to hit the musical trail, we'd probably have to come up with something other than Michelson and Flory.
Probably.
It's not nearly as catchy as Brooks and Dunn.
Maybe we could be Brooks or Dunn.
Oh.
Brooks and Dunn is taken, but
Yeah.
Brooks
One
or
and
Dunn. Huh, Joe? Joe likes
Done
it.
and Dunner.
Brooks one and Dunn.
Maybe. We're circling it. Let's not settle on anything just yet.
Yeah. Okay.
An incident, catastrophe, you called it.
Yeah,
And I feel
what's
like you
going
undersold
on?
it just a little bit, maybe. Okay, so, and as we have established, pork is brain food.
Brain food.
Maybe it doesn't work this way on everybody but me. I feel like it makes me smarter, better looking. It straightens my teeth. I can't explain it. I've had nosebleeds cease while I'm eating pork. Okay? I felt like I was due. I needed my weekly installation today.
And it makes
Sadly,
you taller.
It came seconds too late. I was already too stupid not to hurt myself. Yeah, I had already gone stupid. So the way I make it, I get a pan, and I heat it up good and hot on the stove, kind of sear one side for a little while, and then as soon as I flip it, these are nice thick ones too, big, thick chops. Flip it over, and as soon as it hits that pan, baby, I'm going to cover that pan with foil and throw the whole thing in the oven, 375 for 8 minutes. Okay?
Oh, you've got it to a science.
It's a science. Yes, I'm not playing around here. This is pork. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I pull it out, set it up on the counter and everything. I get the pork chop out. No pork was harmed. But I was moving so fast that I reached out and grabbed the metal handle of that pan that had just been in 375 for 8 minutes.
No.
Now, it had sat on the counter for a minute or two.
That's not long enough.
But I'm here to tell you, the handsome newsman's in some searing pain, even as we speak.
Dude, if you could have consumed the pork just moments sooner.
I know. This is a cautionary tale. If you
it is
think
not
you
very
need
often
pork,
that pork lets us down, but I feel let down by pork.
No, it's not the pork. If you feel like you need pork, you already may be pork deficient. That's the thing. The warning signs don't show up until it's almost too late. Don't be like me. Don't be like me.
That is a public service that you just provided.
Mm-hmm. I'm here to help.
I don't think should be underestimated. It needs to be rewarded. It needs to be awarded.
Mm-hmm.
That is a PSA worth awards.
Perhaps a financial award? Perhaps.
Well,
don't answer me now.
Not for
think
me.
It through. You think
not
it through.
For me. No. I don't have to think that through.
Whatever you feel like giving is fine. It's fine.
Okay.
You decide later. Speaking of public service, hey, if you're going to get out there in the timber, random people who I don't know that I'm speaking to right now, hey, couple of thoughts. Number one, check for widowmakers.
Oh yes.
To me, that's step one. You got to look what else is going to fall down while you're out there fiddling around.
Always.
Helmet.
Yes.
Safety glasses.
Yep.
Gloves.
Yep.
Here's a big one. Put your cell phone on your person, in your pocket.
Okay.
God forbid the worst happens. You're stuck there with a freaking tree trunk on your leg. I left the phone in the truck, looks like. Now you got to lay there till, 8:30, 9 o'clock when Mama gets home.
Right.
You're just laying there.
Yeah, that would be no fun.
Like bugs crawling like on the back of your neck and stuff, and you can't do anything about it?
No, that's right.
Have someone check on you. If you're going to go out there and do some cleanup, even on a building maybe that's supposed to come down, just at least let somebody know what you're doing, so if they don't hear from you in a while, they know where to come look. Everybody? That's it. That's it. I'm not talking to anyone in particular in this moment either.
Point taken.
Just huh?
Point taken.
Oh, you got some timber maintenance to do.
I got a little timber maintenance that needs to get done. Yeah.
Actually sounds like a ton of fun, bro.
Well, I do know this. It's a good reason to put a new, fresh chain on the chainsaw.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Because things have got to get done. No doubt about it. No doubt. Big Apple Joe says you've gone all Raiders of the Lost Ark and everything with us here. That's unfortunate. I hope you're okay.
I think I'll be all right. I got gigs to play this weekend though, you know.
Man,
I don't know what I'm going to do.
You're going to need to. You're going to have to see somebody for. You're going to have to get some salve of some sort.
I'm headed out right after the show to get some salve, some gauze, perhaps some aerosol, and a lolly, because I'm being very brave. You know.
Yes, you are.
Thanks for noticing.
I do appreciate the way that you are helping to spread the warnings, the caution.
Mm-hmm. Watch out for hot things and falling things. But really, the shortcut.
And never wait too long before you try to satisfy the pork requirement.
That's exactly it. And they say there's no shortcuts in life. Pork is the shortcut to better decisions. I'm just going to say it.
That's so well said. So well said. National Weather Service 6 to 10 day outlook. This is for, you're not going to believe this. 6 to 10 days for May 28th through June 1.
We're into June now?
June 1 is 10 days away.
Dude.
We've got near normal temperatures expected in southern Minnesota, Iowa, far eastern Nebraska, eastern Kansas, and most of Missouri and Wisconsin. Below normal temperatures are expected in the eastern Corn Belt. Most of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, southern Michigan through Kentucky, Tennessee, and into the northern stretches of the Gulf states. Above normal temperatures are expected in northern Minnesota, up in the RRV, North Dakota, South Dakota, and most of Nebraska and the western half of Kansas. So kind of a mixed bag on the temperatures. On the precipitation, near normal precipitation over the western Corn Belt, we've got below normal precipitation. Yeah, below normal precipitation expected in eastern Iowa, southern Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and down the Mississippi River. Hey, thanks so much for listening today. Come back tomorrow morning. Dan Bossie, Ag Resource.